You know, whenever a new Digimon game comes out, be it Digimon Survive or Digimon Story Time Stranger, etc., one of the biggest things I see from the fan base is this desire to have as many Digimon in the game as possible. You know, why haven't they made a game with all the Digimon in yet? First of all, there's like 1,000 to 1,500 Digimon, depending on how you count an actual Digimon. And like, yeah, that should be possible in this day and age, but even poor billion-dollar company Game Freak is not doing that. I don't know whether this lack of Digimon is a budget thing or what, but Time Stranger has like 400-ish Digimon. Obviously, that's going to increase in the future with the new expansion style DLC, but still that's a long shot from Digimon that could be in the game. Now listen, I get it, a lot of Digimon come out at weird points, that's why Time Stranger cuts off at like 2020-ish. However, what always baffles me is the fact that Digimon variants do not get added when their original version or their counterpart species do. We do have in, for example, Time Stranger a good chunk of variant Digimon, like obviously the pre-order DLC Black Agumon and Black Gabumon lines, and even Blue Meramon, but there are so many variant Digimon that would be really easy to add to the game and future games, and they still haven't. What is up, digital companions? My name is Karn EX, and if it's not, welcome back. Please click that subscribe button down below, I'd appreciate it, and hype the video on mobile if you got the option. But yes, variant Digimon. There are so many variant Digimon that would be very easy palette or texture swaps, or at most some minor tweaks to the model. Not a ton of work on that side of things, because you can probably recycle animations on a lot of them, but I do understand that unique animations and that type, attribute, etc. differences in variants would require some balancing and more coding in general work, but this game doesn't have a co-op anyway, so go crazy. Some of this is going to seem very pointless and nitpicky, but like I say, a lot of people want as close to every Digimon as possible in a game, and especially recolored variants with slightly different stats would be an easy way to boost that total of Digimon, plus because they're different. For example, Medieval Gallantmon and regular Gallantmon have got different evolution branches. You could do the same for new variants added to the game. This won't be an exhaustive list, but the ones that stand out most to me, and I won't be bringing in X antibodies due to them being very different, and I have a separate X antibody video planned for the future. So the first few I want to talk about are very obvious. Snow Botamon or Yukimi Botamon. Botamon's already in the game, and you could add Snow Botamon as a Nyaramon Prevo and tie it into other snowy or icy Evos. I wouldn't really use any other baby or in training variants here, I just think Yukimi Botamon or Snow Botamon would be so good, especially because we could finally have the full Gatomon evolution line from Adventure. Speaking of Adventure, you could add a lot of Agumon variants. Obviously we already have Agumon Black, but you could add Agumon 2006 as a very minor model and texture change, and then make its black variant, etc. You could have Santa Agumon for a Christmas event. As a sideline, you could also have the Cherrymon Christmas tree from the Vital Bracelet in a Christmas event. Snow Agumon 2006. However, there are Digimon that I say would maybe be a little bit too extra, like Bushi Agumon, who I of course would love to see in the game. And while the changes to the model would not be like super crazy to do, I also understand that it would require basically completely unique animations and movesets, so it's a little bit more of an ask, but I'd still like to see it. There's also of course Agumon Professor and Nisei Agumon Professor, or Fake Agumon Professor, whatever they're calling it these days. Those I think would be fairly easy inclusions, though of course still, like I say, would require more modeling changes and new movesets and animations. As an aside, Terriermon Assistant is already in the game, technically it has a model, so really you just have to do like moveset, attributes, etc. for it. Speaking of Agumon variants, of course Toy Agumon is in the game, and I really can see almost no reason why Clear Toy Agumon and Shadow Toy Agumon aren't in this game. There's a bunch of other adventure and anime season variants that didn't make their way in. Psychemon, the Gabumon variant, along with its kind of evolution sometimes. Gururumon, not Garurumon, Gururumon. Then you've got Ararumon, the Palmon variant, Tsukaimon, the Patamon variant. Plus, a funny one to me is that we have the Data Squad version of Kudamon in the game already, but they accidentally used the card art of the original Kudamon for the card game minigame in Time Stranger. Speaking of Data Squad, you could also use the OG Falcomon as a bit of a callback to Survive, the game preceding Time Stranger. I don't think it would require a ton of reworking. There are some less popular, I would say, variants, but still very viable. Black Guilmon and Black Growlmon, Yellow Growlmon and Yellow War Growlmon. Otamamon Red, incredibly easy. Reminds me of the fact that Penmon and Muchomon are in this game, but only regular blue Otamamon. Madoki Betamon is kind of the default, like most obvious example of a silly variant for a Digimon. It literally means fake Betamon. So yeah, put that in. Elecmon Violet, I mean, it got crucified alongside Gabumon in Adventure 2020. It deserves its time to shine. And in a similar realm, I feel like Black Gatomon Uva from Ghost Game wouldn't be impossible, though I do see it's got a bit more to model than, say, for example, Terriermon Assistant, but still, it could be a good one. Digimon. And as we're in the realm of champions right now, I do think Shamblemon, which debuted in Digimon Ghost Game, would be really easy. It's also showed up in Beat Break recently, and yes, it's a champion, but we already have the Mushmon model in the game as a rookie. Easy conversion in my opinion. The Greymon species is actually fairly well represented in the game. Obviously Greymon, Greymon Blue, and Geo Greymon. I feel like a lot of the other Greymon would be much more difficult to model, and like I say, there are ones that I'd want to talk about in my X Antibody video, but I do think it would have been cool to have the 2010 anime version Greymon, as we already have the Blue Greymon and regular Greymon, but again, maybe a little bit too much modeling. Thanks to Zeke, we already actually have a mod to add Citramon to the game on PC, and I know there is some contentious history with Bombinanimon in Digimon media outside of Japan, but it seems like Beat Break has healed that quite strongly, so I do think Bombinanimon or even Citramon would be a pretty easy edit of Nanimon. Just, you know, knock the beard off and make it more black or orange depending on the version you want to go for. And some more obvious champion recolors are Saberdramon, Black Tyrannomon, Mori Shellmon, and Jungle Mojiamon. Plus I'd like to see Cubimon Silver and Domon, as we already have Kuzuhamon, though I'm a little bit heated that we didn't get made modes for either Sakuyamon or Kuzuhamon, but I think again those would be much more extensive edits to the model. I also want to see Nisei Dromojimon if we're going to add, you know, Nisei Agumon Hakase or fake Agumon Professor, Hidmon the Angemon variant, Weedmon, Vermillimon, which is just red monochromon, there's very little more to it, and Soulmon. It's just Bakemon in a hat, man. Why is this not in the game? It'd be so easy. For Vidramon, which is in the base game, we of course could use Vidramon Black from the Hyper Colosseum, and one that really surprised me is they didn't add gold Vidramon to the game. It's a Destiny Armor Digivolution for Vmon, and it's just a gold recolor of Vidramon. Like, we have Gargemon Gold in the game, why not gold Vidramon? Looping back to the Hyper Colosseum card game, back in the day we got Black X Vmon and Black Stingmon. So really we just need them to make up a Black Paildramon, or I guess Dino Beamon would work okay, to connect to Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode and Fighter Mode Black, which of course got a big showing in Digimon Liberator recently. Some other adventure Digimon, Blue Mega Kabuterimon, no brainer, it's actually the original Mega Kabuterimon, so I think should be in the game. Waru Monzemon as a Monzemon mode change, or some kind of evolution I guess, would be more model work, but it's a really weird one not to include in this game. Not technically X Antibody Digimon, but the Death X version of the Doraemon evolutions, Death X Dorugamon, Death X Dorugureimon, and Death X Dorugoromon, I think would be super easy to include in the game. Again, a little bit of remodeling, but I think mostly you could get away with just retexturing them. Really easy one is to take Antilamon, throw its scarf away, and include the original Antilamon, not the Deva version, which does have some subtle differences, but again, super easy inclusion. And then Grademon Vice. This is one of the Digimon that I predicted would be in the game. I was really disappointed to see that wasn't the case, but at least Grademon could digivolve from the Zubamon line this time. I also was really hoping to see Seigomon in this game. It's obviously a Shoujinmon palette swap and has more connection to the Journey to the West, and of course now Shambhala. We also need other Journey to the West Digimon like Chohakaimon and maybe even Seiten Gokumon in the DLC, but for straight up palette swaps, Seigomon would have been obvious. Real quick rundown of some black variants for Digimon: Black Gargamon, Black Rapidmon, Black Mega Gargamon, Black Gaugamon, and Black Mac Gaugamon. And then as we've got Cherubimon Vice in the game, I think Black Seraphimon and Ophanimon Fall Down mode might be viable. More work for sure on the fixing the model side of things and adding new animations, but it'd be really cool to have all the fallen Archangels in the game, especially as how close we do get to the concept of the 3 Archangels in Junomon's temple. And Cathilamon would be such an easy palette swap of Marine Angemon. It showed up all the way back in Ghost Game, which I guess is a little too late for Time Stranger itself, but man, that DLC, Cathilamon could be a thing. Plus, Apollomon Whispered mode. Its reference book art is literally just an edited palette of Apollomon. It really would not require a ton of work. In fact, you could probably just reuse a lot of Apollomon's animations and just color them like purples and deep blues and stuff like that and get away with it. Here's some of my little nitpicks. I really was disappointed to see the Justimon arm changes as special skills in the game and not as their own mode changes. I know it would be a little bit ridiculous to have Justimon Axel Arm, Blitz Arm, and Critical Arm all be mode changes for the same Digimon, but this is Oops All Omnimon Time Stranger, so I really think it would have been fine to do that for Justimon and have them have slightly different movesets. Plus, like I say, the models are already in the game, so why not? Maybe I want to make a front party of just all Justimon, but can you blame me? You could also have Chaos Gallantmon Core. I think possibly the easiest of the core Digimon to add to this game. It's just a very light blue recolor from Digimon World Dawn, or Digimon Story Sunburst in Japan. And on top of that, you could add Gallantmon Chaos Mode. Now, yeah, it's a US toy line exclusive Gallantmon Crimson Mode variant and was never really acknowledged as a real Digimon. Don't know if it ever got any outings in Japan. We have so much Gallantmon in the game already, and it'd be cool for Chaos Gallantmon to get its own Mega Plus to rival Crimson Mode. Continuing my nitpicking, there would be some easy-ish Omnimon variants we could also add to the game. Not that the game needs any more Omnimon, though I have talked about that in the past. But I do think they would require pretty extensive modeling and texture changes, so I get why these wouldn't be as easy, and of course, at least one of them would be way past the cutoff. The first one would be Omedamon, the Rokusho and Metabee crossover Omnimon variant or Omnimon adjacent Digimon. This also would be leaning into the crossovers Digimon has done, so I get where they haven't included these because of licensing issues and stuff, but god, I wish they would, because I also think it'd be great if they could include the Godzilla collab Digimon like Metal Greymon G Erosion mode, the Mugendramon variant based on Mecha Godzilla, and Omnimon G Fusion mode, which is just so cool. I would love to see it in a future game. Finally, this is a bit of a Hail Mary, but it would be fun to include the Dot Digimon like Dot Agumon, Shine Greymon, etc. as actual Digimon in this game. You already have the Dot sprites for all of them because of the crystallization status effect. You could just make them very weird Dot Digimon with minimal animations and interesting special moves that can't be affected by the crystallization status effect. And sure, while I'm talking about it, any of the Rear Eyes Battle Park forms like Magnamon, White Alphamon, etc., and the mutant forms from Digimon Lynx would be very easy because they are literally just palette swaps, just texture edits. But that's much less likely in my opinion, just because it's been so long and they've never really been designated as Digimon variants, and more so, almost like a Player 2 mirror match fighting game coloration. But I dream of seeing Black Magnamon in a game once again. Plus, of course, the Magnamon X Gold Digizoid form. Alright, that is it. My list of Digimon variants that I think would be the easiest to add to Digimon Story Time Stranger. Of course, the list is not exhaustive, so if there's one that you'd like to see in the game, or hell, if you just want to talk about variants that wouldn't be easy to model in, like the X antibodies and stuff, leave that in the comments down below. Thank you to my sovereigns, ZDK14 and Jeremy Babineau over on patreon.com/Karn EX, and all of my amazing YouTube channel members here on YouTube. You guys are phenomenal, and I'll see you next time when we go digital. Bye bye.